So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my OnePlus 15 review. Amazing battery and a stunning value once again for the OnePlus flagship device. Let's get started by talking about the price. The OnePlus 15 is going to cost you $899, and this is subject to change, but this is mostly going to be for the infinite black color. This one right here, you can only get in the 16 gig of RAM. This one right here is $999, so it's going to be basically $1,000. 16 gigs of RAM plus 512 gig storage. Now you'll be able to get this in 3 different colors, but again, only the violet and this color are available on the 16 gig of RAM version. So do keep that in mind. Also, due to the US government shutdown, the US launch of this phone or availability to purchase is going to be a little bit delayed, but you'll be able to enter your email and on the website, and they're going to give you updates on that soon. So just keep that in mind, that due to that shutdown, that this is going to take a little bit more time to get into the hands of US buyers, but it will be available in Canada immediately. But it does cost $12.99 Canadian for the 12 gig and $13.99 Canadian for the 16 gig for those of you out there in Canada. This phone right here, I do want to move on to talking about some of the key specifications that matter, just so you kind of are aware of what we're working with here, because this is another spec beast once again. Key specs that matter. Let's start with the display. 6.78 inch LTPO AMOLED display. It is a 165 hertz panel, although you're probably going to notice that more in certain games. I'll talk about what that is. It is of the 1.5K resolution. People do believe that this might be a downgrade due to previous displays being a bit sharper. However, I'm here to tell you right away, it hasn't been. I'll talk more about that in the display section though. This does have the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 CPU, so the actual CPU is the latest and greatest on the market, and a massive 7300 milliamp hour silicon carbon battery. Now this also has a touch response chip along with a Wi-Fi chip G2 for not dropping out Wi-Fi signal, which is going to be very important during gaming sessions. So OnePlus is really focusing on enhancing gaming performance with this one right here. And they claim it actually has nearly a console grade gyroscope on here. So definitely this thing is packing like a tri-chip beast right here. Like there's just so much going on when it comes to making sure that this phone just performs flawlessly. It does have a touch response chip, and with the parallel processing and fluid motion, they have definitely worked on in Oxygen OS 16 the overall speed of everything, and you're going to notice it here in my upcoming speed tests, as well as we'll showcase it in this video as well. The performance, it's just phenomenal, especially with animations. All right, so let's cover the build here. So we do have a shape that's definitely more reminiscent of a lot of other smartphones out there, but is giving you flat edges, rounded corners out here, and we do have ourselves USB-C that is 4.1, SIM card tray, so it's not eSIM only. And then you'll see right here, we do have the all new OnePlus key, the Plus key it's called. I'll talk about that more when we talk about software. There is an IR blaster on here as well, and you also do have yourself volume rocker and power button right there. You're also going to find yourself triple camera layout. It's a triple 50 megapixels, so we'll talk more about how this works. It's no longer a Hasselblad though setup, so we'll go into detail about the Detail Max engine here. Flash right there, but overall, I gotta say, the actual feel in hand, at first I was like, this feels kind of like I felt phones like this before, but once I've been using it, they've reduced the bezels here. They're very, very thin, even thinner than some of the competition. The size is just under 6.8 inches, so it's big without feeling massive, like a 6.9 or a 7-inch panel. They've nailed it, I think. I think for everyday efficiency, the real world practical everyday use, I do think it starts to become a joy the more you use this day after day. However, this phone to me is not one that's going to stand out for something like over the top, flashy or anything like that. It's just really good in all areas. I did want to mention one more thing about the body of this. It is a little bit heavier than, some of the thinner light phones out there, 211 grams, but it's one of the first phones with the IP69 rating. So this thing can actually withstand jet pressure water. Like it's crazy, man. Like the amount of water resistance on this is unbelievable. So you're never going to worry about anything related to water problems with this phone. And this is important for the OnePlus, because OnePlus never, back in the day, didn't even have IP ratings on certain phones. So this is definitely a big deal for them. All right, so moving on to talking about the display. Again, 6.78 inches, so it's pretty nice and large here, but not too big. Let's go ahead and turn off dark mode for just a minute here. So they do have quite a few features. I'm not going to go over the regular stuff like dark mode, but if we go over here, we do have natural modes, standard modes, and vivid modes. Now, the way they tune this, it definitely is airing very accurate. So especially on natural modes and stuff like that. But if you go over here to vivid, you can really see that saturation start to punch up on this panel. Also, I was getting rather close on the screen and I couldn't even tell that this was under 2K resolution. Now, I'm not giving them praise for going down in resolution, but what I will say is that it really hasn't mattered. Like, that's just how I felt about it. I look at multiple smartphone displays every day, and to me, this is still tack sharp. I haven't seen any jagged edges, anything weird, nothing like that. Everything looks crispy and it's very bright outdoors as well. So we don't really have anything negative to say here about the display, even though some people are going to talk about that one specification. Also, the reductions in bezels have made this phone feel like you're nearly holding an all screen. Punch hole camera is not going to kind of match up to the old pop-up camera, but still, you definitely have a really, really nice display right here once again. Now on this display, in games, I do like holding this because of the rounded edges, the flat sides. It just feels nice to hold when playing a game. But in games like Call of Duty, you are actually going to be playing the ability to play in 165 hertz. This is actually fully supported in this game. So this is going to be very, very smooth, and it actually might make you win some games just for having a smoother refresh when you're going ahead and trying to take a victory in one of these matchups. So I'm just saying that, like, the 165 hertz, to take advantage of it, you're going to want to play here in some games that actually support it. But it is pretty nice to see this, because usually these type of refresh rates would be reserved for like full-on blown gaming phones. Now you're seeing it in what it looks like a standard flagship right here. And this is probably going to be the gaming phone of the regular flagships to beat right here. They also do include a gaming assistant. Again, we'll talk about that in the software, but because we're still on display here. But back to the area of display, you'll see they have eye care mode for eye comfort and sleep. They have pretty high PWM rates on here too as well, so they don't really bother the eyes, where people are usually affected by that pretty good. So adaptive tone and screen attention. You can also change your screen resolutions between 2772, or you can go to the 1080 mode if you would like. If you go over here, you do have different refresh modes, and you could keep it on the high 160 hertz for most of the time if you want. But you're going to drain battery when times you don't really even need that. But you also have a video color booster as well. So I don't think you're behind whatsoever when it comes to this panel. It's a phenomenal experience. Let me show you a little sample of what video looks like. All right, so here is some video, and you could see with that edge-to-edge display with those minimal bezels, it truly does look like a really nice media experience. Also, with a tiny punch hole, it really just doesn't get in the way. And you could see, do you have an issue with that image? Because I definitely don't. This looks very, very good. Most smartphones do these days, but the color reproduction, great viewing angles, and very smooth 165 hertz. I think it's pretty much a total package here, even though you would think, oh, 1.5K, that's not amazing. Yes, would I like 2K? I'm always going to say yes, and the better resolution. But at the same time, it hasn't really been noticeable. So let me go ahead now and showcase one other thing I do like. You'll see that they do have this feature right here where you can change the toggles right up there from the punch hole. If we go ahead and go into our split screen, we also do have floating windows available for certain applications. Not all of them support it, but most of them do. And then you'll be right there. You'll be able to have, a floating window and bring it over here. You also do have the ability to have split screen. You can actually split that into a split view, and you can switch applications, bring in a different calculator. You know the drill. You could just switch things around, expand the application like that, bring this down a little bit. So they're actually taking really good advantage of the display panel as well, not only giving you a lot of features, but giving you ability to take advantage of that larger size. All right, so let's talk about the next thing, which is Oxygen OS 16. So let's go over here. It's based on Android 16. We'll go down here and we'll see about device. It says version is up to date right there. So this is kind of how the setting layout look. They do have cross device connectivity. You could actually share this and use this with your Apple devices as well. So that's going to be nice. Like you can share with iPhone or PC. So they got you covered when it comes to, cross device sharing, which is a very big deal for this day and age when we have multiple devices. If we go here and see home screen and lock screen, you'll see that we do have plenty of customization. Here's a look at some of the wallpapers. So you can see right here, they're loaded up right there. There's the classic ones. Those three right there are the new wallpapers. You'll see Oxygen OS wallpapers right there. And as we scroll down, they had some of these on the 13 as well. They're just carried over. You have different fonts. You have one sans, you have one serif, Roboto. And if you go over here, you'll see we have different colors you can tweak the interface with. But what I like about the Oxygen OS 16 is that it's still kind of minimal. It's still very polished, but it's not like overbearing with features, but the ones you kind of want. You can also change different icon themings built right in, so you don't even have to go and download anything. It's built right into the software. I'm leaving it on classic for this video, but I've been using this one right here. This Flux theme, I like this one right here because it kind of gives you any color you want. It makes all the icons color coded. So I'll show you what that looks like. So let's just put that one right there. We'll go back and you can see it kind of color codes all of them, which is not something some competitors do. So I definitely like that icon pack definitely does that. You can also change the shapes. If you don't like the circle icons, you can see they're all black and white right there. You can change the shapes as well if you want to do that. But I'm gonna go back to classic, keep it there for the review. They also have always on display customizations, including different system customizations, patterns. And if we scroll down, there's a bit more. Heading out of there, scrolling down, we do have ourselves security and privacy right there. We have safety and emergency settings as well. You can go ahead and play with those if you want. But here's the real big one. The battery life, we'll talk about how good that is. You do have high performance modes, power saving. You can actually see your battery health down here as well. Some people don't love seeing their maximum capacity, but it's good to have it so you know when it's time to replace that battery. You can see right here, plus key. Now this is what I was talking about early. This key right here got rid of the silence switch. So now you can customize this between do not disturb, camera, flashlight, recorder, translate, screenshot, or you could set it to no action. I tend to leave it right here for the sound and vibration right now, just because that's what I'm used to on this side. But after a while, I might switch to a flashlight or something. But you have that convenience there. Now in accessibility and convenience, you do have one-handed modes, glove modes for better touch response during winter when you're using gloves and stuff. You can actually schedule this phone to turn on and off if you would like, which is pretty cool that you could schedule it to turn on by itself. That's pretty dope. If we go over here, you'll see we do have Zen Space. You do have the kids mode as well, so you can set this up for kids. So bigger icons, applications that you choose, so it's more, you have more control over it. Under here is one of the newest sections here within the 15 as well, which is the AI features. You have a mind space feature, which can store all your thoughts and everything, keep all your information not scattered in one place. And you have an AI writer mode as well. That's going to help you out to turn those thoughts into text. If we go over here to AI translate, you can actually change the different voices between a female or a male, and you can download your own offline packs as well for language. We also have AI voice scribe and AI recorder. So live transcriptions available. And on top of that, we do have the ability to use circle to search right there, Gemini key over here. So this is no longer behind when it comes to AI. It's actually much more advanced than some of the previous OnePlus phones. So if you want AI stuff, this is definitely going to be a good upgrade if you're into the AI stuff. You can do your system updates right here. They also have different gestures and buttons. And as we scroll down, you have a little bit more there. Down here is your Google settings, and that's about it when it comes to what the software includes in settings. Now you also have these large folders right here, and what's built into this phone is going to have the OnePlus Store and some of these OnePlus applications, but you can see you could set up your IR remote right there. And then within the app drawer area, you can go to categories and you can see applications like this, or you can see them in just a regular mode. It's kind of like having either a list or you can have it categorized. So kind of nice having those options if you like options on your device. Now over here on the top right, you are going to have yourself different modes and settings, including, super power saving modes up here, A lot of the stuff we talked about in settings is going to be enabled right up here. And you also have reverse wireless charging available for this phone. So all in all, if you kind of take a look at the way the software operates, they have a lot of what you really need on the day-to-day while also being very smooth and polished. So, and with that 165 hertz and with this touch response, the thing, it's so silk. It's silky smooth. It's probably the smoothest phone I've tested this year. So really, really strong performance on this device. I think you're going to love the animations, the consistency of them, and just the polish of the software. It just feels very, very nice. And so performance, I'm going to do a quick launch of some of these applications. I'm going to do a speed test comparison soon where this phone is going to face off against some of the fastest in the game. But at the same time, you could just see right here, everything is smooth, everything is fast. That's not to say other phones aren't, but they have the best animations I've seen on any phone. Look at this. This is ridiculous. Gemini does that on every phone, by the way. It's just Gemini that does that. But look at, they kind of like open before this thing is ridiculous. Also, it benchmarks. I already benchmarked it. I'm not going to say the scores, but it benchmarks like some laptops. 165 hertz. And also, they know that people are going to be using this for gaming. So they include a gaming assistant mode here. So right here, it's kind of like having a little gaming section on this phone. This is the flagship phone to get. If you want a regular looking flagship, but you want gaming beast, this is the one right here. You can see Real Racing 3 does support the 165 hertz, and you can change some settings as well. You can also change when you're in the game, performance settings. You could like boost it up to a TV and play these games on a TV, different display controls. I mean, it's all here. This phone is loaded for gamers. So you're definitely going to enjoy this. Now, storage and RAM, I think it's a great value. 16 gigabytes of RAM. You can also expand the RAM as well, up to 12 gigs, and 512 gigabytes of storage for $999. That's actually a pretty good deal when you consider most phones that are competing or it's competing against are going to cost a bit more, and they're going to start at 256 gigs. So they're giving you double the storage for like $200 less than most of the competing phones out there. So to me, this is the value king when it comes to the storage department for the price. Definitely living up to the never settle, because you're not settling on storage or RAM. That's definitely a good deal there. All right, guys, it's time to talk about the cameras. We have triple 50 megapixel cameras on here with 32 megapixel front facing camera. Now, the big question is, are these cameras good enough? Are they going to get the job done? And I got to tell you, after using these, the answer is yes. They're very, very sharp. However, people are wondering, are they any good, not having the Hasselblad? Well, they're still very strong. It's not like they're going to put some weak cameras in $1,000 phone. Now, are they better than the competition? I think that is going to be subjective, but they don't have everything the competition has, but they still have, I think for the price, a good setup here. It's also going to do computational photography. So a lot of the photos that you do take are going to do some software processing to make it look better than what the megapixels and all that stuff would suggest. So that's something to keep in mind. But as we scroll through these different modes, you have 85 millimeters. You can actually zoom up to 120 times. Although as you start to get into the further zoom ranges, just like most phones in this category, they don't look as good at those furthest zooms, especially in low light, but that's the same for most zoom cameras. So if we go over here to portrait, you have the ability to do portrait as well. They have plenty of filters here, including some of these. So if we scroll through here, you got plenty to play with right there. You have a text scanner mode. And if we go over here to more, you do have panoramic modes, pro video. So you have an actual pro video on here. And this phone is capable of doing 8K resolution. But something to keep in mind is that 8K is going to be in the video mode only for 30 FPS. You can also do 4K 60 or 120. So it still has those high-end features that you would like. Long exposure modes are available in a simple camera layout. And you can see right here, there's the video. And if we go over to master mode, they still have that master mode that they kind of had before with the Hasselblad combination. So that's still there. And you do have JPEG and RAW modes. The question is, do these actual samples though, do they live up to what I expected? And the answer is yes. The cameras are pretty strong. I don't think they're the best cameras on the market, but they are still very strong, and they're definitely not a deal breaker for this phone. It has professional tools. It does have high resolution sensors and pretty long zoom with a lot of features to play with. If we take a look at the front facing camera, let's go ahead and flip that around really quickly here. And you'll see we do have the ability to back out, not quite as wide as like an iPhone or something, but you can zoom in on this one and go 1x. It is 32 megapixels and it looks okay. So I don't really have much to complain about with the camera, besides the fact that it probably isn't my top choice for the camera, but it still is good enough. I still want to see OnePlus bring a camera that beats everybody, but I just don't think this is the one that beats everyone. But it definitely, it's not a slouch. Like, you're not gonna get this and be like, oh, this camera's not good. Take a look at some of my samples and let me know your thoughts on the camera of the OnePlus 15. All right, guys, so let's move on to talking about the battery life. Now, I've had this phone for a couple of weeks now, and I gotta say, the battery is unbelievable for this phone. Like, I would think I would get battery like this in a phone that has a thick body, like one of those rugged phones. But this phone, I actually didn't charge it one time for 3 days. Yes, I was getting quite low, but I topped it up in about 40 minutes on a OnePlus fast charger. So not only does this thing last incredibly long, I think if you're pushing this phone hard, like a heavy user, no problem getting through a day and a half with this phone. 2 days should be the standard on this 7300 milliamp for most heavy users. I wouldn't say extreme heavy, but heavy users. So this thing is just absolutely beast. And it's actually beating, phones with like 5,000 milliamp hour batteries easily all day. Also, this thing doesn't get too hot. It's super efficient. It does have a cooling system in here, so it does a really good job at that. They very focused much on all the little details. It's going to make this phone a day-to-day joy to use. Yeah, the battery life on this phone is just an absolute game changer for sure. And for those of you saying, well, I've seen this before in other devices, this is going to be one of the biggest batteries available in the US market though, for flagship phones. So that's what I'm talking about. And it's very, very good. I hope to see silicon carbon batteries make it to other smartphones so those phones can also last 2 to 3 days. But OnePlus is definitely putting what we need to see in this one right here, which is a 7300. That is pretty darn large. Combining that with all those other specs, it definitely has plenty to give you a long life. And also, if you keep it in the 1080 mode, it still looks pretty good on the display and you get even more battery life. Connectivity's been strong as well. I've been having 5 bars, fast 5G. Everything's been working just fine on Mint Mobile for me. Not a sponsored video. That's just the carrier I'm using right here for this phone. And I haven't had too many issues with that. It also tends to not drop out of Wi-Fi hardly ever, if ever, never did actually. And it's snappy even when I'm out and about. So I've been really, really liking that. The fingerprint sensor is also ultrasonic. They used to use optical sensors a lot. So this is nice that we have ultrasonic on here as well. Just wanted to make that a quick mention on this device. Do I have any cons with this phone? I would say the only con I have is it's just not as striking to me as the design of the OnePlus 13. That phone to me just stood out as like just being them just doing something different. This phone does look a little bit more reminiscent of some other phones I've seen out there, including like S25 Plus or an iPhone, for example, just kind of the shape of the device, but that's not a problem overall. I'm just saying that I don't know that this is like, if they stay with this design, that it's like the most exciting looking. It's more, this one is more about what's packing on the inside while retaining a clean, simple design, I think, on the outside. And for a lot of people, that the understated feel of this is going to be really, really good because they know what they're packing under the hood of this phone. And the audio performance with stereo speakers, high-res audio support has been good as well. This also has Bluetooth 6.0. This has Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 6, no 6E on this one, but we also have the USB-C for fast connectivity. So it just kind of has like literally every spec that you would want. I just can't find too much to fault with this besides maybe it's not a 2K. Like that's like the only thing. Maybe the selfie camera could have been better, as the selfie camera is kind of similar to some previous versions. So there is still room for improvement on the OnePlus 15. I would say that would probably be my thing. Just beat everybody else in the cameras, and you got the absolute top phone here on the market. I don't know if they can maintain that though price point if they're going to be putting the best cameras ever made on a smartphone. So that would be very tough to do with keeping that price point down compared to the competition, which they usually undercut them, which still makes this why I put value in the title. So the final verdict is in, and I think this phone is totally worth it. It's actually very exciting and fun to use, mostly because it has a ridiculously long battery life. It's just a complete overall package. It does have a simple, easy to use feel in the hand. It feels super smooth. The refresh rate is awesome on here. And overall, the gaming performance is on another level. It also have this game assistant mode we talked about earlier. And this phone is just, there's just nothing on this phone that makes it a real deal breaker. It's just a good option. I do think for some people who want better camera, they're going to be looking at some other phones. So I do think OnePlus should improve the cameras if they want to beat the camera phones out there. But I think from a performance perspective, they're beating basically everyone. So when you look at the never settle branding, I do think that is kind of making sense, because if you're going to have worse performance than somebody, you're settling. But you kind of aren't settling here with this one too much at all. Some people are going to say, well, you're settling on the 1.5K display. Well, I'm telling you, from using this and experiencing it, I can't even tell the difference really. Maybe it's my eyes, I don't know, but it definitely doesn't look that much different whatsoever. So for me, it's a definite win. It's a definitely amazing battery and value, and it's definitely playing up there and definitely getting the next generation of 8 Elite 5 Gen 5 phones kickstarted here. This thing is pretty awesome. Let me know your thoughts about it down below in the comment section of this video. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks to OnePlus for sending out this all new OnePlus 15. I'll catch you guys all in the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.